What led to WWE being acquired by Endeavor, and what is Vince McMahon's status as chairman going forward? Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. As you're probably already very well aware of, Endeavor has acquired WWE. Perhaps not officially yet. It has not been set in stone. They are going to get this merger with the UFC taken care of, but that is the plan. They're going to create a new company with WWE and UFC. Of course, they will stay separate brands. There will still be WWE and UFC, but they will have one company name to be on the stock exchange. And Vince McMahon, surprisingly, through all of this, will still be the chairman. He's the chairman of WWE currently, and he will be the chairman of this new company. Of course, he will be answering to the powers that be at Endeavor. But if you watched the interview that Endeavor's Ari Emanuel and Vince McMahon did, they were asked about Vince McMahon essentially taking orders. The specific question was, what if you two don't agree? And Ari said flat out, he took over and he said, if we can't agree, we're not going to do it. It seems like Vince McMahon is going to be allowed to run his company, and that was the big concern with UFC being sold. How much are Endeavor going to have their hands in the business? They allowed UFC to retain Dana White and most of the management team and the executives, and it looks like that's going to be the same case for WWE, maybe with a little input, but more than anything, it looks like Endeavor's role here is to simply build WWE from the outside, if that makes sense. They're not going to have their hands in the nitty-gritty of WWE. They're going to allow Vince McMahon to maintain control and run his company, and that was their big issue. A lot of companies were curious, will you do a deal without Vince McMahon? Do we have to take him? He had the sexual misconduct scandal in July last year. He had to step down. Now he's back. That caused lawsuits to come out, and that was something that Nick Khan, WWE CEO, was asked about. Are you guys willing to do a deal without Vince McMahon? And Nick Khan said, yes, we're willing to do a deal. He talked about Vince McMahon getting up there in age, understanding where he is at in the business, and it seemed like it was greatly hinted at that Vince McMahon would not be a part of WWE going forward, that the company would be sold or acquired or however you want to term it, and that Vince McMahon will not be a part of it. But lo and behold, Endeavor says, no, we want Vince. We want Vince to be a part of this. They believe he is the reason behind the success of WWE, and they want to maintain him. That was a part of the deal. They said, we are not doing this deal if Vince does not come with his package. This is a package deal. It is Vince McMahon and WWE. We want the property of WWE. We want the expertise of Vince McMahon. And like I said, that's a far cry from thinking that Vince McMahon is not going to be a part of WWE moving forward with a sale or a merger, thinking that it's going to take a buyer like Saudi Arabia that probably just doesn't care if he's there and doesn't care about the scandals to purchase the property of WWE to maintain Vince McMahon. But here we are. Endeavor is going to be merging WWE and UFC, and Vince McMahon will be the chairman of this new company. With this in mind, I wanted to go over the timeline of this deal that led to the merger between WWE and UFC under Endeavor. This was put out by Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. It says the following timeline is sourced from the newly filed prospectus for the to-be-named merged company that will control WWE and UFC when the transaction goes into effect, which is expected to happen later this year, January 17th to April 2nd, 2023. Over 60 potential counterparties, including strategic companies, financial sponsors, family offices, and sovereign wealth funds, were in contact about a WWE transaction, according to the filing. February 6th to March 21st, WWE made confidentiality agreements with 20 potential counterparties. February 7th, WWE and Endeavor signed a mutual confidentiality agreement to do due diligence on each other. The same day, Endeavor submitted a non-binding indication of interest proposal to merge WWE with its holding company, with Endeavor owning 57% and WWE owning 43%. February 24th, WWE requested non-binding indications of interest to 8 potential counterparties, including Endeavor, to be submitted by March 13th at 5 p.m. Eastern. March 1st, Endeavor executives Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro met with WWE's Vince McMahon and Nick Khan to discuss the merger proposed earlier. March 2nd, WWE's board met with its financial advisor advisors present. The board determined WWE should continue to pursue alternatives while also engaging with Endeavor. March 13th, WWE received prelim written indications of interest from 8 potential counterparties. 3 of those, 2 strategic and 1 financial sponsor, were interested in acquiring the whole company. Strategic Party 1 offered cash for WWE at $95 to $100 per share. Financial Sponsor 1 offered cash at $90 to $97.50 per share and said they might seek partners to co-invest and that they'd get debt financing. Strategic Party 2 offered cash at an implied share price of $76.83 and would need equity and debt financing partners. Following March 13th, WWE management directed their financial advisors, including firms Rain, JP Morgan, Moelis, to have discussions with parties that were interested in providing debt or equity financing in an attempt to get more concrete proposals at higher valuations. Beginning March 19th, at the direction of WWE management, its financial advisors held discussions with Strategic Party 1, Financial Sponsor 1, and 2 other potential counterparties. March 21st, WWE board held a special meeting. Financial advisors noted that all potential counterparties other than Endeavor would require outside finances to make a transaction happen. If those parties failed to secure financing, it could remove competitive tension. At the March 21st meeting, the WWE board decided to act on introducing Strategic Party 1 and Financial Sponsor 1 to each other so they might partner with each other, which could result in a bid competitive with Endeavor's bid. Also at the March 21st meeting, WWE's board reviewed a term sheet that would merge the companies, with Endeavor getting 51% of the company and WWE shareholders getting 49%. March 22nd, Vince McMahon, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, and Mark Shapiro met again in Stamford. Vince and Nick presented Ari and Shapiro the term sheet with the 51-49 terms for the first time. They decided to continue discussions and provide Endeavor's legal advisors, Latham, with the term sheet. March 23rd, Endeavor's legal advisor Latham gave WWE a revised term sheet proposing Vince as executive chair until death, resignation, or incapacity as a condition of giving WWE a 49-51 increased valuation. Vince would also get 5 of 11 board seats and certain veto rights. Indeed, according to the filing, Endeavor was willing to concede to giving WWE shareholders a greater portion of the value of the merged company, 49% rather than 43%, only on the condition that Vince McMahon remained with the company as executive chair. During conversations on March 23rd and March 24th, 2023, involving representatives of K&E for WWE, Latham for Endeavor, and Paul Weiss for WWE, representatives of Latham emphasized to representatives of K&E and Paul Weiss that the governance proposals in the March 23rd Endeavor term sheet were fundamental to Endeavor's thesis for pursuing a transaction with WWE in light of, among other things, Endeavor's belief that Mr. McMahon's continued leadership, as contemplated by the March 23rd Endeavor term sheet, would be critical to the value creation driving Endeavor's desire to engage in the transaction, and that agreeing to increase WWE security holders' pro forma equity ownership in the combined company to the 51-49 split that had been proposed by WWE was conditioned upon both changes required by Endeavor to the governance arrangements set forth in the March 23rd Endeavor term sheet. Latham also reiterated Endeavor's position that Mr. McMahon provide his written consent to approve the potential transaction with Endeavor promptly following the signing of definitive transaction agreements. That's consistent with Emanuel's comments on CNBC on April 3rd when he said, "Oh my God, yes," in response to a question about whether he insisted Vince stay with the company. Also March 23rd, Endeavor and its advisors, Strategic Party 1 and Financial Sponsor 1, were given access to a round 2 data room with non-public information on WWE. March 24th, Endeavor gave WWE access to its data room with non-public information on Endeavor and UFC. March 26th, Strategic Party 1 was provided tickets to WWE's house show that night in Denver. I'll note, while the identity of Strategic Party 1 isn't disclosed, Liberty Media is headquartered in Englewood, Colorado, just outside Denver. March 27th, WWE's board held a special meeting with its financial and legal advisors to discuss the Endeavor revised term sheet. Non-management board members and advisors met and further revised the term sheet and provided it to Endeavor's legal advisors. March 28th, WWE's compensation committee met and finalized Vince McMahon's employment agreement, officially making him a WWE employee again for for the first time since his July 2022 resignation. Additional revisions to the term sheet were made on this day and afterward. March 30th, two other bidders had further discussions but decided neither wished to be the lead investor in an acquisition. April 1st, WWE's board again had a special meeting with its advisors. Paul Levesque was absent because it was day one of WrestleMania, but informed senior management of his full support for the deal based on prior meetings. WWE's financial advisors noted at the meeting there were no alternatives to the Endeavor deal that were executable in the near term. Rain, JP Morgan, and Moelis, the financial advisors, all agreed and provided in writing their opinion that the deal was fair. April 2nd, on the night 2 of WrestleMania Day 2, the deal to merge WWE and UFC was finalized. April 3rd, the deal was announced in the morning before the opening of the New York Stock Exchange. And that was the timeline for the WWE and UFC merger under Endeavor. Be sure to let me know what you guys think about all this, and what do you think about Vince McMahon being the chairman of this new company until death, resignation, or incapacity? I'd love to hear from you. That's all I've got. I'll see y'all later.